everybody. Welcome to Conversations on Social Work Careers. I'm Jennifer Luna, and I write a column for the new Social Worker magazine called Your Social Work Career Coach. And today we have the pleasure of having Dr. Octavious Bishop. Dr. Bishop is a BSW. He's also an MSSW. He is a graduate of the Steve Hicks School of Social Work and currently a lecturer at the School of Social Work as well. He is also the owner and CEO of his new company, which we're going to hear a lot about. And the company is called iLevel Consulting. Thank you and welcome, Dr. Bishop.
Hi, Jennifer, nice to see you.
One of the reasons that I wanted to interview you today was because of your career in sports and social work, which is quickly becoming an area of interest for many social workers. And we hear a lot about it from different schools, different means, but you're really the expert. So we'd like for you to start off by telling us a little bit about how you got interested in sports and social work, and what are some opportunities that social workers could anticipate in going into this career?
Yeah, defining sports social work is relatively new, but it's social work has been around and has helped sports for a long time and been a part of it, been a part of the sports world for a long time. A lot of us come from communities who have dealt with social workers, and for me, it was a match, even stemming from my childhood and understanding what social work was about. And then once I got to University of Texas, the University of Texas School of Social Work was a perfect match for me. And being an athlete, I didn't want to go down the coaching route, but I always wanted to have a hand in what happens with athletes off the field and how we cultivate athletes whole athletes, not just athletes who are good at athletics or great at their sport, but also those athletes who have a desire outside of their sport. And so I've always had a desire to do something in community-wise outside of sport, and social work has been an avenue for that. And so when sports social work started to come up, and we continued to define social work, but in short, it's really about addressing the wellness of student athletes as a whole, looking at all aspects from injury to their relationships with their coaches, and even their home lives. Many times people who see athletes on TV don't realize that these are really babies with muscles. And a lot of them still have things that they deal with at home. And so it is an honor to be a part of something that's really, really helping the changing atmosphere and climate of sports as a whole, related to the new NIL, name and likeness thing that's going on in athletics, to be a part of that and to help people cultivate their talents and gifts beyond the field is really what sports social work is about. All the mental health, all the different pieces, where you can help people in society with social work, you can actually help also in all areas of sport.
Can you tell us a little more about the name and likeness that I think a lot of people might not be familiar with that, and how that relates back to what you do?
Yes, and so when I came to the University of Texas in 1994, and there are a lot of rules under NCAA policies about what athletes can receive and not. And so athletes were considered popular, but we didn't have anything monetarily, actually. We were considered amateur athletes and still defined as amateur athletes. But we couldn't receive anything outside of our athletic department. Literally, we could not accept a meal. Jennifer, if you were saying like, hey, Octavious, I bought an extra Subway sandwich. Here's an extra Subway sandwich. I couldn't take that sandwich. And so now with name and likeness, even though there's a lot more involved into it, I'm just trying to give something kind of an easy way to define it. Now athletes have been able to use their name to be able to actually advance their careers. And that advancement is going beyond the field of play. And also athletes are able to think beyond the game with the name and likeness. Now, in my opinion, name and likeness is kind of the Wild Wild West now. And so there are parameters around it. And people like Ricky Brown, who's one of the senior executive athletic directors in the athletic department at University of Texas, is really working to help protect our athletes and to also help them monetize themselves beyond the sport.
And how would you say that, say, a clinical social worker could work in this field?
Yeah, there is room for clinical social workers, and one of the reasons why is that athletes are looked at as these superheroes, superhuman people, but at the end of the day, they deal with problems. They have girlfriend problems. People, they have troubles. Even athletes have dealt with addiction, right? And up close, athletes really deal with injury. Injury is probably one of the main issues related to the mental health and wellness of student athletes. Once you get hurt in a sport, your role changes, and many times the coaches don't have time to really help you through that process, particularly if you have a significant injury. So whether it's a light injury or something that you're going to come back quickly from, or whether it's something that's permanent. Athletes get hurt every day, and their careers are changed and lives are changed every day. So there is a space for that, because anxiety and depression aren't going anywhere. And so clinical social workers are well equipped, well educated to be able to help athletes through that process to find and work through identity foreclosure.
Would you say that somebody would need to have had a career in sports in order to do the work?
I don't. I really don't. I think you have to have a heart that's compassionate about any population of people who are trying to transition, whether it's through an injury back to their sport or from an injury that's taken them back into the world. I believe that there's much to gain from individuals who aren't a part of sports and a different outlook on what life can be. Athletes have been in a bubble, and whether it's through high school, whether it's through college, we are placed in a bubble. And so many times we need voices outside of the athletic departments which we come from, and our coaches, and even our families. So Jennifer, I'm a strong proponent of those individuals who are interested in working with athletes to help them advance themselves beyond their sport.
Could you give us some examples of roles that a clinical social worker, jobs that they might seek if they were wanting to go into this field? And then I'm going to flip it, and we're going to talk about macro roles as well.
Yeah, that's a great question, and I think that's ever evolving. I think the fastest way is to be able to either intern or have a field placement, or even inquire about what are the mental health services related to student athlete wellness. And so in doing that, social work offers a litany of arenas in which you could work. And gaining a license as a licensed social worker is really important. If you're able to do that, then you're able to address those issues related to mental health. And even though the field is very young, it's always evolving. There are areas of guidance. There's two sides to it related to how you can get in. I have taken the route of the more guidance. And the reason why is because I'm able to touch more lives faster with guidance, right? Most people, as you know, Jennifer, may not necessarily need therapeutic work right immediately, or they need to be groomed for therapeutic work because of sometimes culture and even the apprehension about therapists. And sometimes guidance can help lead athletes to recognize, hey, maybe I should go see somebody, and take a deeper look at some of the issues I have, or maybe I just need guidance and I need mentorship. Maybe I need to hear word from someone in player development who has a social work degree. To help me get through the day, help me get through the process, help me live outside of the community which I come from. So there's guidance, and there's licensed social worker, a licensed social worker or therapist would be great for this field.
What about a macro social worker who wanted to be involved in this field? What roles would you see? I know that we've talked in the past about athletes who want to go into philanthropy and need guidance in terms of how to do that. So that's one that comes to mind. But what other roles could a macro social worker play in sport and social work?
Yeah, Jennifer, you're absolutely right. Athletes have done a wonderful job in the philanthropic space, during their career and post career. Even as even the student athletes that are here, they visit hospitals, they visit different organizations like Special Olympics to do work. So it's a natural fit for them. And social work can actually lead you to that. How to form a nonprofit, how to be a part of it, getting some experience and even work experience within the philanthropy area. And I did that. I worked for communities and schools and helped build a program, the XY Zone, the male involvement program back early 2000s. And so, yeah, that's a great way to go. Now, I have a different take. I've added some more to that. And we don't really know or have a lot of research on what if social workers are part of these areas. But I'm under the impression that if we took a look at all of the major corporations and nonprofits and schools of who was running HR, I really believe a strong social worker would be a great person to be a part of HR, particularly working with the whole issue of inclusion.
Yes.
And all of those different things. I think in social work, we don't just fight for inclusion, we live to include.
Yeah.
And so when you talk about the macro level, we can read it. We see the issues related to hiring practices and what people do related to interviewing and the lack of attention paid to men of color in certain sports, where those on the field, there's a lot of men in color on the field, but in the prominent positions, they're not. But I would like to go a step further in that. Just like I said, if we were able to take a look at it to see who was running HR, it would give us a really good idea of the lack of diversity and inclusion, even at the mid levels, right? In the executive offices and things like that. And once we impact those areas, then we'll be able to make sure that we're able to impact the whole of an organization as relates to the macro level and social workers who are involved in sports social work.
Yes, I can see. I think that's one of our greatest areas of knowledge in terms of diversity and inclusion, and how that would be such a great fit for this field. As with almost every population that we work with. However, I think a lot of people don't lean that way when they think about athletes, even though they should.
Right.
We always think about, vulnerable populations that we might work with and may not put athletes in that category.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Jennifer. It comes back to how it's not just our society, it's historical. We
Yeah.
can go back to the Roman times of what sport meant and how even with the gladiators and how they were placed above the rest of humanity, right? And that they were almost superhuman. But that we know that's not true. I know it as an athlete, that's not true. And you know it because you work with me. And so, we have to humanize athletes. Athletes do feel. Athletes do have problems. Athletes do overcome, right? We don't even celebrate the stories of overcoming or know what a person who has a helmet on has overcome to even get in that position. So
Right.
we haven't done a good job of even telling the stories of student athletes and why sports, and this is why sports social work would be a great platform for society and even young people to truly hear the stories of these athletes and how they've evolved beyond their sport.
Okay, I'm going to get a little personal now.
Okay.
Because I've known you for a long time,
Yeah.
From when you were a BSW student
Mhm.
and a college a football player for the Longhorns, and I want to hear a little bit about your journey in terms of playing sports, negotiating. I mean, that's hard to do as a social work student, and then to come back and get a master's degree, and then to get a PhD. What motivated you to come this far in your career?
Yeah, Jennifer, it's an understanding that I am a culmination of all the people who have invested in me. That's really the truth. Once I came to the School of Social Work, I felt so accepted. I'm accepted in the athletic world, but social work, I was even accepted in a different way. People knew that I played a sport, but I wasn't that sport when I came in this building. It gave me an opportunity to remove the helmet, to remove the sports tag or football player tag. And then I was able to meet people eye level, right? I was able to meet people where I was, to be honest, even how we teach, how I've been taught and trained here within the school related to how we have discussion in class, right? It allowed me to really live outside of the emblem that was on the side of the helmet. And to really come in and to meet people where they were, and to not only that, it gave me a whole different family, right? The school, only reason I'm back here is because I consider the University of Texas Steve Hicks School of Social Work family, and so I've always been treated as family here, and it's an easy fit. So when I was recruited to come back, you asked about the negotiating a piece on it. Negotiation is interesting because, when your honor monitor comes back, you want to say yes immediately, but over time, I've continued to watch and been a part of. I've been invited back to the School of Social Work. I've done all those things, and even athletics, to come back and recruited to work back here. But in negotiating what I would like to do, what not to do, I was able to actually come to an understanding that I wanted to be in the School of Social Work because of the vast work experience I had, what I went and got and came back, right? I have 2 degrees in social work, but then I got a degree, a PhD in psychology. And so having those experiences really helped me be able to negotiate with myself whether or not it was a good fit first, and then to meet with people that I care about and who care about me, who've invested in me here within the school, to recognize, okay, this is a fit.
Excellent. What would be, I could hear your story 100 times.
Yeah.
I love the passion and commitment. And, I think that what you said is a very valid point, that when you get recruited to work somewhere, especially somewhere that you have a prior affiliation with, whether it's a school or maybe an organization that you belong to or a service that you've used, it's real easy to just say yes, and not think about that negotiation piece. So I think it's so important for social workers to understand that they should always negotiate.
Yes.
Always.
Yes, negotiation is really important, Jennifer, because there's this misconception that social work, that you can't go into field social work and you can't make money. I would like everybody to know that hasn't been the case for me. I've been extremely blessed, and over time being able to to be accepted in a lot of different areas, even outside of social work, because of what I've done in social work. And it's really about how we are communicating that message related to the value that we hold. We as social workers have to understand that we hold a ton of value.
Yes.
And so, but for too long, we've heard that, oh, you don't have monetary value. That's not, I never bought into that. And so for me, this has been the best decision I made in my life, is to stick with social work and to always have my, my limbs of growth connected to social work.
I'm so glad that we're talking about this. I feel like it's another rabbit trail, but
Yeah.
negotiation, in my opinion, as a career coach for social workers, and throughout my career, I've always thought negotiations should be one of the pillars of our profession, because we are natural negotiators. And I think a lot of times we call it advocacy, right? So we negotiate resources for our clients, but it's advocating. We negotiate collaborations within organizations, but for a long time, we've never really applied that to ourselves and our professional self.
Right. right.
And so I'm so happy that you mentioned that, because it's such an important skill that we already possess, just we don't often apply it to ourselves.
That's right, Jennifer. And this is such an important conversation to have, because my wife would tell you, and I'm taking off the professor hat. I'm being honest about who my wife would tell you that she would like me to go speak for her. If I was going to negotiate something for her, she would be totally fine if I was pumping her up and I was, the lead on putting her out there. But she has said, no, let me do it for you, because you don't, as a social worker, we don't do a good job of being able to show ourselves properly.
Oh
And
gosh,
give ourselves the right credit.
that's such a great story. I kind of have the same experience. I write my son's resumes.
Mhm.
And then I thought one day, who better to write a resume than your mom, right?
Right.
or your partner, or somebody,
Yeah.
that really just, knows everything about you. But yes, that is so true. And I'm I'm so glad that you recognize that and instill that in our students. So tell me, what would be some of the pitfalls of choosing this as a career?
Yeah. Well, first of all, there's there's, I wouldn't call them pitfalls. There's concerns that you have to always
Concerns. That's better. Good
in play.
reframe.
Yes, in social work, I teach a class called Foundations of Social Justice. A lot of lecturers and professors have taught that class before, so they'll understand where I'm going with this. Um, Social work is such a good match for sports, is because you have to be able to address both sides of the coin, right? If you go into social work and you work in an area dealing with family, you're more than likely you're going to have to actually be able to advocate and support the victim. But you know what? You very well may have to do some support for the offender, right? And so you have to be able to manage that, to recognize, okay, who am I as a social worker? What am I feeling during this process? But then how do I get the best outcome? And so it's a direct match with sports. The action of a sport. Let's just take football, for example. You have to be able to deal with the good and the bad in a game. And so when you come from a field of social work, you're dealing with how a student athlete who has a, more likely in college, a undeveloped prefrontal cortex, right, decision making. You have to help them recognize how they deal with both success and how they deal with failure. And so we're trained better. I know I'm biased, but we're trained better than anyone or any field to actually help athletes deal with success and deal with failure.
Right.
And so we have already been given the training, and to me, it's a perfect fit. It matches the puzzle of life.
Yeah, we are designed to go under the surface.
Yes.
And I think that is such a great example, because there probably are a lot of misconceptions that, such to be an athlete is it's so select and unique, and you have to have so much talent that one might not automatically recognize that there's a person behind there, just like you said earlier, a person who has feelings and, has obstacles and challenges that we may not know about.
Right. That's right. And in athletics, and particularly once you get to a certain level, all those challenges, there's an athlete is one mistake away from it all being aired, right? And so if you're a top level quarterback and you get a divorce, or you have family issues, it's going to get publicized, right?
Right.
Like you make a mistake one night, it's going to get publicized, and I don't see a field more equipped than social work than to help the athlete who made a mistake.
Right. Or even an injury for somebody that doesn't have a high level or visible career.
That's correct.
Say a student athlete or a high school student or middle school, one injury away, and it could all be taken from you. I also want to poke into entrepreneurialism a little.
Yes.
And I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about your new company and how you came to do this business, and what it means to have several balls in the air.
Yeah. And so this business, to be honest with you, for years, I've known that I wanted to get to a place to where I wanted to do something entrepreneurial. There's so much you can do when you have something entrepreneurial that matches your skill set. And so I didn't choose something that's difficult. I've been doing this for years, right? Exactly what I'm going to talk about related to eye-level consulting. How I came to eye-level consulting was I remember working at Crossroads Counseling and Associates, and I was doing an internship there, and I was counseling, and I realized that my size, I had to do something related to my size, and so what I
And you
realized
might want
is
to
that,
tell the audience what your size is.
yeah, well, yeah, I'm a very big, tall man.
Very tall.
Yeah, very tall.
6'5", I believe.
Say it again.
6'5". Is
I'm
that right?
6'5", yes.
Okay.
Yes. And so I realized that I was speaking to men and women, and if a man would come in and he had some issues of insecurity, you know, I knew that getting eye level with him worked. Or if a woman came in, I was working her and say she dealt with something related to abuse, me standing up or being higher than her, even from a physical perspective, I'm not sure they were hearing what I was hearing, the advice I was trying to give. So what I did was I learned to get eye level, actually to sit in a chair that was a little bit lower, right under their eyes.
Right. Wow.
And the response was amazing. The response was amazing. And what happened is, that's the brain play, right? Our brains are hardwired, and our minds have a canvas in which we can paint the world, the picture we want to paint the world. And so what it started to do, it started to evolve. And this was in years ago. I mean, I can't even remember how many years it was. Well over 10 years ago. And so it started to evolve. And then what would happen is I would finally get to this point to where I wanted to start a business, because I was already doing what I'm doing now in this business. I was going to different companies and churches and sports teams to really talk about leadership and mentorship. Well, eye-level consulting came about because I really wanted to address this issue of diversity and inclusion. And so I still want to talk about going to companies and address leadership, which I've been doing my whole life, mentorship, which I had the privilege of being able to be trained and educated through the school of social work on how to do that. And then also this whole piece has evolved related to inclusivity. And so we all know that there's a political battle going on related even to the words diversity and inclusion. Yes. And so what I've done is I have because diversity is important in my life in every aspect, from friends to even what church I would attend, right? I mean, everything. It means a lot. But I wanted to remove the word diversity from my company, and to really bring more action to it and just place leadership, mentorship, inclusivity / the power of the locker room. That's my mantra, and really has been a really good. It's turned into something good to where people are opening their ears to hearing more, because they want to hear about the power of the locker room. And diversity is not something that's fabricated in the locker room, where sometimes it can be fabricated in organizations and things. And we know that there are things like quotas and all these different things. And diversity is beautiful, but diversity without inclusion is just a pretty choir. It's just a beautiful sight. And I think that's awesome. I love it. I'm not speaking against it. What I'm saying is I'm trying to move deeper into the heart of man and the heart of companies and those who make decisions, so that we're able to truly evolve in the area of inclusivity. How do we include? Because once you include now, To include, it means there's a sacrifice. You have to sacrifice maybe your conversation. You sacrifice whom you even going to invite to lunch, right?
Right.
So inclusivity, and in the locker room, I've already done that. I did that as an athlete. If you were a part of the locker room, everybody's a part. If Octavius had a barbecue, then everybody's invited to the barbecue. So that's where I'm
That's
going.
such
with
a
it.
great metaphor.
Yeah, that's where I'm trying to go with it. So.
And how do you, I've heard so much about, like you said, inclusivity and using diversity and some of these buzzwords, but I think that transformation from inclusivity is so important, and that's sometimes where we don't go the full mile.
Yes, that's actually right. The problem, and people will understand this. You can quantify diversity, right? You can count how many.
Right.
You can see, oh, look what we're doing. We hired this many. We hired that person. We hired this person, right? Even on and social and sports, right? Coaches do this. Coaches, a lot of coaches may not want you to know this, but they hire, for recruiting and a lot of different things. They hire people of color, and they have quantified who they want on their staff and how many they want on staff. A lot of them have.
Yeah.
That's
even
the
now
underworld
with pro
secret.
football, that's become a big thing. Yeah.
Exactly. But inclusivity causes us to qualify why we believe what we believe related to who is invited. And so it gives context to how we got to this place of whether or not it's a very diverse place, or wow, we missed the boat on diversity. Because right. inclusivity it speaks to the heart of who we are. It moves beyond shame and guilt, and it moves to what am I truly convicted by, related to including individuals, including people. In a locker room, I have experience as it relates to inclusivity and how that convicted and changed my life, related to how I love my brothers, in that locker room. And so it's a deeper look into the heart of a locker room, which hopefully can be a deeper look into how we can help change society.
I feel a book coming on, Octavius. You need to just write all that down.
Yeah. Well, it's written down. I just, it has to get out.
Yeah, it seems like it's really moving from output measures to outcome measures.
Yes.
And what that looks like. This has been such a great conversation. And I'm wondering if you have any final thoughts, how people could get in touch with you, or just if they have interest in your business or learning more about sports social work, how could they get in touch with you?
Yeah, you can. I'm on social media, and right now my company was just formed here in March. Okay. So we're working through the website. The website, I have somebody working on that. But you can look me up through social media on Instagram. And
we'll put all those links up.
Yeah, we'll put all those. Yeah, you put all those links up. And really, what I'm going to be doing daily, I'll be putting out some really good quotes and some things to help us think about inclusivity and leadership and mentorship, and just society in general. But then I also will be starting a podcast here soon about called Let's Get Eye Level. And so,
that's great.
Yeah, so I plan to put out 3 to 4 this year, and then hopefully next year we will put one every month. And
I've seen your quotes before, and they're amazing. It's kind of like, sometimes you see quotes on social media and people just, share quotes, but you actually come up with the quotes. Yeah. And people share those. So I am so impressed with that. And I just want to thank you so much for this conversation today. So much, Octavius. Thank you all for listening in today. And we will see you next month with another episode of Conversations in Social Work Careers.
Thank you.
Thank you.